Welcome into another episode of the TerpTalk Podcast. This is your host, Mason Viener, joined by Jordan Viener. Later in the show, we have a sit-down. Wayne and I did a sit-down with Ryan Howerton earlier in the day that we'll have here on the podcast, and then our Northern Illinois preview. Jordan, let's jump right in to the non-rev report.
All right. Let's go. Women's soccer unfortunately fell to Florida on Sunday 3-1. Bit of a big test for them, Mason. Drops from the 4-2 in the season. The program has a lot of progress still to make. It's hard to discourage from this one.
Yeah, it sure is. Over across campus to the field hockey and lacrosse complex, the Terps advanced to 2-0 on the season with a 4-0 win over Villanova. And Jordan, they got a big weekend coming up. ACC Big Ten Challenge action, because that still exists somewhere in the sports world.
Yep. Field hockey will be down in Durham this weekend. They'll place number 8 Boston College on Friday and number 5 Duke on Sunday. Both those games, big matchups, will be on ESPN+.
Yeah, back over to Ludwig. Men's soccer, they blew out St. Francis, as we predicted here on the podcast, 6-0 on Monday. They'll take on Pacific on Saturday. And they had the largest crowd in Ludwig since 2018. They get over 5,000 for that game on Friday against Bucknell.
Yeah, which I will admit, for those who don't know, Mason and I both used to be big in Maryland soccer. Bit of a disappointment to see that. I mean, I remember they used to pack 6,000-7,000 people in that stadium.
Yeah, and just with the TV schedule, in my opinion, like there's been a lack of early season Friday night games, which is where you would see those crowds. And inside Big Ten play, Indiana really being the only power the Terps take on. Hopefully those days are gone with some UCLA games in there, which used to pack some of those bigger crowds, and USC coming to town. And the Big Ten overall just getting better out on the pitch.
That is true. I mean, the big games were always, Duke, North Carolina, Virginia, traditional men's soccer powerhouses. Not as many of those in the Big Ten. Hopefully, as you said, though, with those West Coast teams, that will change. Anything else you want to hit before we get to Ryan, Mason?
No, let's get over to Wayne and I sit down with the Terps offensive lineman, Ryan the Mountain Howerton. Now we welcome Ryan Howerton into the TerpTalk Podcast. Ryan, let's start off with last week. What'd you make of the performance against the Owls?
I thought we had a really strong performance. I thought we came out a little slow, but then we started picking it up as the game went on. I thought the O-line had good pockets all game. Well, that just came from a good week of practice. I think when the young guys got in there, we slowed down a little bit too. But overall, I think we had a pretty good game on basically all facets.
I took notice of you when you started showing up on Twitter, now on X, as one of the biggest student Maryland fans out there. So I had a couple questions heading in that direction. First of all, for somebody named the Mountain, who named you the Mountain?
It was actually my high school offensive line coach and high school head coach back during COVID, because my freshman year was COVID. So before getting into high school, we were doing like online Zoom lifts. So I would just be on my phone in my room. But at my dad's house, my room might be like a 2x2 box, So I'll have the phone posted up. I'll be doing push-ups, and I'll look just like this, like doing them like this. And it was like, dang, he's taking up the whole screen. He's like a mountain on the screen. And from then, it just stuck for the rest of my life, honestly.
Well, I met you in real life, so it's an appropriate nickname. So you're talking about 4 or 5 years ago. What are you, about 6'6", 330 now?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay, so what were you 5 years ago?
5 years ago, I might have been just starting high school, maybe 6'3", 260, something like that.
Not bad. So have you been a Maryland fan your whole life?
No, I really just learned about college football maybe 2-3 years ago in 10th grade after getting my first offer. I didn't really think about college. I think a lot of guys were just like me, where they kind of just see NFL guys. They're like, I want to do that. And they're just playing football. But yeah, I didn't know anything about college really. And then once I got into it, it was like, okay, yeah, this is something to get behind.
So have other players, both recruits and players, noticed your online fandom of Terpsville?
Yeah, I would say so. A lot of times now they'll still say like, yo, Ryan, we got this guy we want you to talk to. We got this guy we want you to text, type of thing. Or back when I was a recruit, everybody would be tagging me and like the post that say, hey, we need to get this guy. Somebody get at him, at me, at somebody else in our class, and it was just like it started to become like I was a part-time recruiter, part-time recruit, But I
Oh
always
yeah,
came
absolutely. It looked that way. I mean, that's why I came up and started talking to you, because I
Yeah.
felt like I already knew you because you're just so out there as being a Terp.
Yeah.
Did you pick 75 or did they give that to you?
It actually changed because my teammates, two of my teammates, they had like a number they've been wearing for a long time. Allen, he was wearing, I can't remember what number he was wearing before, but he won a 71, and my teammate Isaiah Wright, he won a 75. I mean, he won a 74, and Allen was wearing 74 at the time. That's what it was. So they came up to me as like the young guy, and I was like, you know what, bro, I'll give my number. I switched from 71 to 75.
Nice. Mason.
Ryan, going back to the Twitter, the X in that universe of college sports, how would you rate the progress of the free grandma movement?
Oh, worked wonders, boy. We got some recruits off of that one. That was a good time with that one. I remember somebody tried to start it off like a little earlier using the same picture, but once it caught steam with the big guys, like the big recruits, I was like, yeah, this gonna be the one for this. So.
Okay, so for an old guy like me, what in the world does that mean? Who came up with that?
It's a picture on the internet of a lady about 100 years older than you sitting in a cage, like hands to the cage. It's got to be like for pterodactyls, like a big bird cage. And somebody just found it, put free grandma. I'll free my grandma if Malik Washington or whoever commits to the University of Maryland, and it just caught on from there.
And then, so take us to now. So we had, think about way back, probably before you started getting into college football, we had the DMV to UMD movement. Now the free grandma movement. What's next for you, Ryan? What are you going to come up with next?
Oh, I don't know. Because I feel like now we're starting to get the guys to realize, like, if you want to, like, the best players in Maryland really do, like, stay in Maryland. I just recently saw a post where it's like Michigan had 26 DMV guys, all these other guys leaving. And I'm like, if we all would have stayed here, this would be a powerhouse. So I don't know. I got to find some way to get more guys to stay in state, maybe get some other guys, pluck out some guys from other schools, get some flips, get some good stuff going. But I don't know. Maybe flips to Maryland next.
When you look at that game on Saturday, there's some people and Mason knows all the names because he's studying, but somebody like Sidney Stewart coming off the edge like that, is he that powerful in practice? And what's it like going up against him?
Oh, yeah. I remember when he came here in spring, he was like, well, all our young guys, they're juiced up. Like, they came in, and all of them only knew one speed. There'll be days where we're in a walkthrough just chilling, and they're still full speed coming off the edge, getting to their spots, trying to still work their moves. And we're like, yo, like, calm down. But then I realized, like, that is the standard that needs to be set for a team when you want to take it, when you want to go somewhere you haven't been. You know what I'm saying? You got to start doing stuff you never did. So that means you got to start practicing on one speed. So guys like Sid, guys like Nasir, guys like Zahir, like, they all came in with the same type of energy, and they just started bringing it up. So to answer your question, yes, Sid does that in practice. Yes.
So take us through a little bit on the inside side of that. Last year, obviously, with Tommy and Jordan Phillips and all the veteran guys up front that are now in the league, to this year, what's that change kind of look like? Now it's a bunch of these young guys. You just mentioned how much they like to come in and get after it. What's that transition been from a group that's basically all now in the NFL to a group of unknown freshmen?
It's kind of like we had a certain expectation of them. So now, my freshman year, I was down there on scout team blocking 2 NFL D tackles every day for reps on end. So now when I see the new guys come in, it's like, okay, you got some big shoes to fill. So those expectations are something that we just put onto them, and they just been reaching them and reaching them and reaching them. So I feel like it's more of an expectation on our behalf to get them to that level of greatness,
Yeah, Ryan, what does that change look like? Obviously, Warbo was in the background last year with Coach Brass. He departs mid-season last year. What has kind of the change been, one, with that coaching, and then two, with now year 2 of that massive offensive line class that you were a part of?
I would say it's been pretty great. I would say Robo, he's definitely a student of the game. Like, I feel like it's like every day he mentions some random dude I've never heard before, and he's just talking about how these guys have built up the O-line. He talks about back in the 80s when they was only able to use their forearms to block. Like, I can see that he's taken the time and he's researched the game and he loves the game. So yeah, to answer the question about all of us coming in, I feel like he's just we're kind of like his class, if that makes sense. Like he's like, we're all coming in together, we're all working out together, we're all going to extra sessions together. So he's kind of like raising us up into his image of, 50, 60 years of offensive line play put into 2025.
So I got to ask one school question. What's your major?
I'm majoring in criminology right now, actually.
And how'd you pick that?
I was really enjoying my criminal justice class, and then I'm kind of like one of those guys who like connect like 4 or 5 things together. You know what I'm saying? So I would just be like, oh, well, you said it like this, so that has to mean that like you're not feeling all the way happy about it, so you must be upset. So then once everybody saw that, they was like, yeah, you need to start getting into something with psychology. So yeah, that's when I just picked it for myself.
All right, throw this back to Mason.
Yeah, Ryan, one last one going into the short week, Northern Illinois coming up on Friday. Take us through the install from Saturday. That game ends into the short week. What's that looks like? And then what are you looking forward to on Friday night?
You just got to get right back to it. I feel like we all kind of understood that it was going to be a quick turnaround and kind of like a heavy workload on our bodies type of thing. So we all took the extra time to, work through those issues, any hurts, any aches, any pains, and the coaches have done a really good job getting us right with the rep counts, getting us right with the workouts, having us put in extra time and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I'm excited for this week, guys. This is going to be the first night game in the shell, so it's going to be pretty fun. It should be pretty fun.
What are you guys wearing? Okay. What uniforms?
I don't know. Hopefully it's the yellows. I like the yellows a lot, so hopefully it's the yellows for the first night game, but probably have to wait and see.
All right.
All right, Ryan, thanks for jumping on with us. Looking forward to seeing you on Friday night.
Anytime, man. I appreciate y'all.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.
And we are back. Mason, a very nice guy, Ryan. That's the first thing I'm going to say about him.
Yeah, he's one of the Terps I'm really looking forward to seeing get some more run. And unfortunately for the roster overall, I think we're going to see Ryan a little bit more at guard with Jalen Gilchrist, who has taken reps at both guard and tackle. His injury not looking good from Saturday, so Ryan will get pushed into a little bit of a bigger role for the rest of this year.
Indeed, Mason. And speaking of Ryan Howerton and the football team, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. NIU is not exactly a marquee opponent for a Friday night game.
No, not at all. And look, this is a team that those of you that like to schedule watch without really knowing the facts were calling out for the upset and all that. But if Northern Illinois looks anything like they looked in that bout with Holy Cross this past Saturday, 19-17, the final of that one, the Terps should roll 16.5-point favorites as we talk here on Tuesday night.
Yeah, and that's something where we have to start the conversation tonight. Northern Illinois really came out flat against Holy Cross, who Holy Cross is good in their conference. I believe the Patriot League and the FCS, but it's pretty close to the bottom of the barrel as far as the FCS football goes. I mean, it's hard to say that they're going to be a fight with the way they played, but Mason, you really can't say that. You got to treat every opponent like a big game.
Yeah, no doubt, especially in this world of football. Week one, similar to the NFL and college football, you can never put too much stock into your week one results. And that goes both ways for the Terps fans that have talked about the pass rush. We talked a little bit about Sidney Stewart with Ryan and how he and some of these younger pass rushers have looked. And no doubt in my mind, they're going to be the more talented guys on the field. They're going to continue to pop, but you can never put too much stock into that week one film. However, it did not look good for Northern Illinois, who lost a lot from last year's team, the team that knocked off Notre Dame, I believe. Was it week 2? So almost a year ago to the day.
Yes, and you beat me to the punch on that one, Mason. I was going to talk about that because NIU pulled off one of the biggest upsets in recent college football history last year, week 2, to beat Notre Dame on the road. So they still have Thomas Hammock as their coach. For those who don't know, Thomas Hammock coached the Ravens as a running back coach from 2014 2018. Played football at NIU. He's been their leader there for about, I think, 6 years now. So you really can't say they're discounted. If you can beat Notre Dame on the road as NIU, Mason, Maryland's nothing compared to that.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Jordan. And look, if you look at Northern Illinois stats from their win over Holy Cross, Josh Holst, the quarterback, was 12 for 18 for 101 yards, no touchdowns. He did throw an interception. Jackson Proctor, the backup, had 6 passing attempts, only 8 yards, so 109 passing yards through the air for Northern Illinois. A little bit more successful in the rushing game. 2 backs. Siobhan Wright, the backup, led the team in yards, 11 touches, 77 yards. He got the lone or one of the touchdowns for Northern Illinois. Telly Johnson Jr., he took 21 carries, but only 67 yards. That's a 3.2 average per carry there. A host of other backs and receivers had some rushing attempts. They did run the ball fairly well in that, but look, you look at down this team, and Holy Cross, Jordan, you know more about FCS ball than I do, is not a great team. They're not a really highly thought of program. 6-3 at the half, 14 points for the Crusaders in the fourth quarter, 13 points for the Huskies, gives you that 19-17 final. I don't really know. I don't have a lot of positive things to say, but like we've said, you got to take stock in every opponent, especially one that's been able to knock off some really good football teams here recently.
So let's flip the script then. Talking about the Terps, what do you look for going to the next game? And I'll lead this off, actually. My biggest thing I'm looking for is, can we defeat the slow start, and can Malik Washington come out firing in this one? Because that first quarter of that last game still was a bit of a haunting thing for the Terps.
Yeah, I think that you're spot on there. And one of the things you have to look at is, can they clean up the penalties, right? Can we not beat ourselves? And that is going to be probably the statement for this young team throughout the season. How can you avoid beating yourselves with penalties, with turnovers, which we did not see, with dumb personal foul penalties, which we saw a little bit of. I wouldn't call many of them dumb, but they did happen. And how can you continue to take the next step? Because with this many freshmen, with this many guys that haven't played together, inevitably there's going to be errors. It's how you mitigate them, how you respond to them, and how you get better as the season goes on. And that started, and if it didn't start on Sunday, it better have started Monday morning, because, look, this is a long season, but the most improvement, Mike Loxley says this every single year, is between week 1 and week 2. So clean up the penalties, win in the run blocking game, a little bit more aggressive in the run blocking game. And then on defense, how can you just put together a repeat performance from what we just saw? Because you can't get much better than the 6 turnovers, the touchdown, and look, it could have been 8 turnovers when you really go back and look at the film. But these guys, they were flying around the field making plays. How can they continue to do that here going into week 2?
I think those are good areas to cite, Mason. I would also add the run game. We really did not see a powerful run game from these Terps last week and against a weak FAU opponent. And it was a bit disappointing. I think Nolan Ray and Dwan Williams both are very talented backs that just could not get it going. I thought Dwan Williams was better than Nolan Ray, but neither of them really stuck out to me as like, wow, this is a Big Ten level running back.
Yeah, I think Nolan Ray a little bit slower of a start than Terps fans may have wanted to see. My number one thing going into the run game, and it probably would have been a good question for Ryan, is how those interior offensive linemen felt like they blocked in that game and got it. Because Mike Hershey made some plays upfield, but you could tell differences if you go back and you kind of watch the game frame by frame. The offensive linemen getting to the second level, especially those interior 3, which is really looking like Isaiah Wright, Michael Hershey, and Aluba right now, when they were making second-level blocks, we were gaining yards. I know that that's a really simple thing. There's a lot more to it. When they weren't finding ways to shed and get upfield, you were seeing the 2-3 yard slog runs, which, frankly, if that's what you're showing, you better be able to consistently do it. I'll put it that way. Because there are offensive lines that kind of consistently produce the same sort of yardage gains, regardless of who the opponents are in the middle tier, and then they face a really, really high caliber defensive line who just dominates them. I think we can win a lot of games if we're just able to move kind of the 3.5 yards in a cloud of dust line, but also how can we get guys in space, especially Hershey, who made some really nice upfield blocks. But like I said, Jordan, more aggression in the run game. Pep's going to give a lot of run game looks. How can we get that extra offensive lineman or AJ Zizmansky out there and get a blocking tight end and add to it? Or what is that combo that's going to be able to win consistently in the running game for this football team? Because pass blocking wise, they did excellent. It was just the run game. They were not all the way there.
All right, Mason, before we wrap things up here, let's talk a little bit around the Big Ten from last week that we missed. Really just the West Coast schools. I think the first one we got to address real quick. USC scores 73 points on Missouri State.
Yeah, and I remember a day where the Terps put up 79 against Howard, Jordan, and things went kind of sideways after we put a thumping on Syracuse. So not going to put too much stock into week one results, especially against the FCS.
Hey, remember, Missouri State's in the CUSA now.
Okay, you know what? There you go. You got me on one. I definitely missed on that one.
I think the biggest one, though, in the late window that we didn't talk about last week, Utah absolutely smokes UCLA at home.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of what's going on in Pasadena, or maybe I am a fan of it because I guess you're probably heading out that way when it comes around to that game. So I guess good props for the Terps fans that may be heading out to Pasadena. I'm not sold on anything that UCLA program is doing. Obviously, they've changed the quarterback position. Didn't look like it showed well for them, and the defense was just bad. I mean, those of you who caught any like kind of the old Pac-12 After Dark, RIP, this was a repeat of that. And UCLA, I mean, Nico 11 for 22, 136 yards, only a touchdown interception. The run game totals 84 yards on 30 attempts or 28 attempts. And then the defense, I mean, my God, they were getting lit up. 21 for 25 through the air. The Utes were 260 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then on the ground game, Jordan, 54 touches overall for Utah, 286 yards, 4 touchdowns. And that was really without a breakaway run. Longest carry of the game was a reverse for 25 yards.
Looking ahead a little bit to next week, Mason, we got some good matchups that we're just going to go through real quick. Illinois travels to Duke. The line only favored by 2.5 over the Blue Devils.
Yeah, I like Illinois right now. I like what Brett Bielema has done. He's built the program the traditional Big Ten way. I really don't like the Illinois dark horse for the playoff crew right now. I'm not seeing that result in my crystal ball. But look, it's a 12 o'clock nationally televised game on the road early in the season. I think there's a little bit too much hype with Duke and their transfer portal multi-million-dollar quarterback. But I like the Illini to roll big in this one. I love Illinois with the 2.5, and I like the over the 49.5 total. I'm thinking that it gets over that one too.
Always a big one. Iowa travels to Iowa State for the Cy-Hawk game. Cyclones are favored in that one, Mason.
Yeah, big noon. Woohoo! At least favorite thing that's out there. I like Iowa. I do. They struggled with Albany moving the ball, but they kind of figured it out late in the game. Iowa State's flying high coming into this one, but Kirk Ferentz has the Cyclones number. And I think that he'll be making another call to that bank that he's just been able to ride to his extremely successful coaching career. He crossed some crazy milestone I saw on the Big Ten Network on Sunday on the final drive. But I like Iowa. 3.5, I'd stay away from it. 41.5, Jordan, is the total. You don't see that much anymore in college football.
No, you do not. One that's predicted as a blowout is Oklahoma State traveling to Oregon. The Ducks favored by 26 points, Mason. I mean, the same Oklahoma State of old, but that's a big number for me.
Yeah, I think people were impressed by Dante Moore and the Ducks and their great showing against, I think it was Montana State. Jordan, don't call me out. I believe they are still in the FCS. But, last year, the Ducks getting that run for their money against, I believe, Idaho in week 1. I think they got a lot of people inspired about what Dan Lanning's got cooking in Eugene. Oklahoma State has not played well in these early season big games. They haven't played well at big games in quite some time with Coach Gundy starting to maybe be on the hot seat a little bit out there in Stillwater. I like the Ducks. I don't like where Oklahoma State's team is at. I don't like where their defense is at, but 28.5 is a big number. 28.5 as the spread right now. I think you said 26.5, but I got the combined odds in front of me. 28.5 is their spread. 58.5 is the total. Not a lot of parity there between those two. But yeah, I think the Ducks roll. I don't like the 28.5 number.
And finally, the game of the week, Oklahoma travels to Michigan. Both these big time programs may have something to prove in this game.
They do, and our old friend Jay Sean Barham will be out for the first half after a targeting call on the NBC Saturday night game against New Mexico last week. I like the new look Sooners. I will say I like the way they showed. A little bit of a slow start, but they really got it rolling there. At home, they desperately need a win, Brett Venables. He really does need a win. I got to say, I like Oklahoma, freshman quarterback for Michigan on the road, week 2. Never a big fan of those. I think we saw Arch Manning kind of fall into that hole on Saturday. I think that Bryce Underwood will be in a similar place. Maybe not as bad, but a similar place against kind of a re-inspired Oklahoma team. They, again, like I said, they desperately need a win like this. Sooners 5.5-point favorite going into Saturday night on ABC. Jordan, one other one that I got to point out, Wisconsin 28.5-point favorite against Middle Tennessee State with the total 48 or 45.5. Wisconsin, Billy Edwards, Luke Fickell said he's looking like he's not going to play on Saturday. I can't imagine watching that Wisconsin team with O'Neal in their quarterback and thinking they're going to beat any team by 28 points or 29 points. But Middle Tennessee State's not the Middle Tennessee State of old that did they ever beat us? I know they gave us a run for our money a couple times.
I believe so, Mason, but to your point, Middle Tennessee State got absolutely slammed by Austin Peay of all teams in week 1.
Yeah, one other one that I'll keep an eye on, Jordan, going into this week, we basically covered the whole slate at this point, is Boston College. They're on the road against Michigan State on the NBC Saturday night game. BC's got a lot of positivity around Bill O'Brien's program. I'm interested. That seems to be like a two teams that I think are going to be around that 8-win number by the end of the season. I think Michigan State might need this one for bowl eligibility, even though I just said they might end up around 8 wins. But this is one of those swing games for Michigan State and Jonathan Smith in year 2. Spartans favored by 3 right now. I just, that's one to watch. I think that could be a sneaky, entertaining game on Saturday night, especially if something goes sideways in Norman.
All right, Mason. Let's wrap it up here for our Terps. What's your score prediction? NIU coming off a weak performance. Maryland coming off a performance that many people around the country seem surprised by. I'm going to say Terps 45, NIU 14.
Yeah, Jordan, I can't see it going much different than that. I think the Terps come out, they start fast. I think Malik Washington continues to burst onto the scene. And when I say that, he's gotten a lot of press this week, but I think another big performance from him puts him solidly on the radar of one of those trending freshmen. I think he gets that job done for the Terps. Look out for 2 guys in this one. I think Jalil Farouk comes back and has a big game after a little bit of a letdown. I have a feeling for him after some of those drop passes early. And Octavian Smith, I love Octavian Smith to score at least 1 touchdown in this game for the Terps. I think Maryland's offense just shows what their firepower can really look like, what some of their weapons can really do. They're going to be much more settled coming into this one. Defense continues to dominate. I don't think they're going to get as many turnovers just because I think the play calling on the other side is a little bit more conservative than what we saw last week. But the pass rush continues to show through against a MAC team. I do think Northern Illinois is a better team than FIU, but I think the Terps make that week 1 to week 2 jump. Give me Maryland putting up 50 in this one. 52-17 sends it home for the Terps with a Friday night dub.
Hey, one thing we did miss, speaking of Malik Washington, Mason, Malik, Big Ten Offensive Freshman of the Week. He's hot right now.
Look, I will say this, and I said this to you on Sunday. It's different. I like Talia. I like watching him play, especially early when he was trending upwards and he hadn't necessarily maybe hit that plateau point that I think frustrated so many Maryland fans. It is just so nice to see this fan base energized by a player from here. And look, I'm gonna make a statement here, Jordan, that's not accurate yet, but I can feel it. It kind of reminds me of when Steph Diggs showed up and you just started to feel this hype from a guy from Maryland who had all the energy around him and people were excited to go and watch him play. And it's just so nice to have that. The results obviously will need to show through for themselves, but it is nice to have a guy who everyone's rooting for, all in on, and is just from this area and really is that, DMV to UMD, free grandma, whatever you want to call it. He is the face of that movement, and he is fun to watch so far, and I can't wait to watch him the rest of the way this season.
Well, my camera's having issues tonight, but you did not see my eyebrows raised when you said that. I hope so, but let's one thing at a time here. Let's beat NIU, and we'll be back after that game on Friday night or Saturday morning, Mason. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Go Terps, and we'll see you next week.